Hey, welcome to the channel. I'm just doing a quick video to just give an update on a recent race that I did over the weekend, which was the South Downs 100. And this was put on by UK Ultra, and it starts in near Petersfield and goes all the way through to Eastbourne. It's about 101 miles, and so it's another 100 to get done. And yeah, it's got about 12,500 foot of elevation, and overall it went pretty well. I ended up by winning it, which I was really chuffed with, and basically, I mean, the main thing was just to get another 100 in the bag after basically almost a year from last year where I did the North Downs Wave. So it was great. So yeah, here's the trophy just to show that I finally won an ultra, which is great. I managed to win it by basically, I think it was about 18 hours 45, and I ended up by doing an extra 5 miles because I got lost, but we can go into all those details later. So yeah, got the buckle, and it started sort of midday and then went through the hot day and into the night. And so it was also the first time that I'd gone all the way through the night through into the next morning, so that was another challenge for me as well. So there's lots of learnings, so I thought I'd do a quick video whilst it's fresh in my mind for the things that went well and the things that didn't go well, basically, just to get that information across whilst it's kind of up here recent. So starting off, what went well? I had a crew, which I was really lucky with. First time I've had crew. There's a guy called Scott, and he drove me all the way to the start line about an hour before, and which was great. And then he was going to meet me at certain points en route mainly with the hydration and the electrolytes. And then meet me at the finish line and take me home in my sort of battered state. So yeah, the way in which I looked at it, so what went well, the hydration and electrolytes went really well, which I think was a really big point, because throughout the day the temperatures were going to get up to over 20 degrees, and when you're running that gets really hot, and it was sunshine and stuff. So if you're pushing the pace a bit, you can really feel that heat. And so fluids, electrolytes, all that sort of stuff is just critical. So just if you can nail that and make sure that you have the right amount of fluids like consistently through the day, especially when your sweat rate is most, that I think was a really, really big part. So what I did for that, I did on waterproof paper. I put a list of all the aid stations, and then I arranged with my crew guy where I was going to hopefully meet him, and his are the ones in yellow. So currently I was looking at meeting him obviously at the start, and then the next one was at 21 miles, the next one was at 35 miles, and the next one was at 57.3 miles, which is just beyond halfway, potentially with a shoe change. He also had like food and a few other bits as well, but the main reason that I wanted him there was for a quick and seamless changeover of the hydration. So yeah, those ones in yellow are where I was planning to meet him, and the ones in sort of pinky orange colour, they were my drop bag locations. So I was going to be doing the fluids and other nutrition stuff there anyway. So yeah, my plan was, I had two 500ml flasks with me, which was throughout the day I was mainly aiming for both of them with electrolytes in both, using the Precision Hydration 1500 electrolyte. And also when I was planning to meet Scott at those aid stations, where he'd go to the aid stations and then he'd walk down the path and meet me 100 meters or so before the aid stations. So we'd do the switch over, and then I would basically run through the aid station, because I'd have all the nutrition with me initially to do 8 hours worth up to the first drop bag, and then to swap there for my next load of nutrition. So, but the main thing was the hydration. So yeah, when I saw him coming up, I'd drain it out as much as possible, and then just do a swap over, bang, done. So you haven't got that time for undoing, pouring, waiting for the tablets to dissolve, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Literally just straight swap out, get rid of your rubbish and travel light, and then back on with the race, as if you're continuing to run, so without properly stopping. So that worked really, really well. We discussed it beforehand. I did a spreadsheet of where all the aid stations are with postcodes, and so that he could drive to them quite easily. So yeah, I was looking at getting 21 miles with a litre's worth, and then from there to 35 miles for the next one, and etc, etc. I was basically using both electrolytes mainly through the day and topping up with water if I needed, from the aid stations or whatever, but because it was hotter and I'd be sweating more. And then through the night I'd have one electrolyte, one water, because of probably less sweat through the night. I think the shoes and generally the kit went really, really well. Now the shoes, it was a bit of a risk, but I'd only done 10 miles in training on these, and initially they felt great. They were really cushioned, really comfortable, but the great thing was they were really good on road. These are the Agravix Speed Ultras. Now, I honestly felt that I had a distinct advantage over other runners, especially when it came to hard packed and road use, because it's got such a big rocker on these, and the cushioning is 30mm in the forefoot where you're mainly landing, and 30, I think it's 38 in the heel. So yeah, they're a max cushion shoe, Light Strike Pro. You've got the energy rods there, and it's, even though you're going at a slow pace for an ultra, just the fact there's a massive rocker there, it helps promote getting you on your forefoot and getting that gait cycle going and basically running, whereas some people might be thinking, oh, maybe I should walk this because it's a slight incline up a hill, but these things really help you just run and run. And they're very cushioned, so it protects your feet, quite wide. So I think the shoes were a fantastic choice, and I wore these from start to finish. There was also a chip that was zip tied to the here. Now so I pretty much had to wear them. I mean, I could have cut them off and tried to put it back on another pair if I was doing a shoe change, but I had a few blisters, but that was to be expected because during the day it was hot, and then during the night time it was pretty much raining throughout most of the night with fog, and so my feet did get wet, especially from the wet grass. I was wearing Injinji Performance Run lightweight ultra thin cushioning socks, and these worked really well because once these things got wet they actually drained out really quickly, and so that really helped. Petzl head torch, that worked really well with like a 9 hours burn time at 100 lumens. So I had it on the second setting, not the max one, just to know that I've got enough time to get me through the night. The shorts were great. I was wearing Adidas, the Terex Agravic trail shorts with loads of storage, which I needed because effectively I had that extra nutrition in that as well, and so it's nice to have the storage and little things like this, which had also the course record and the other details of the paces with my pacing strategy on it, just to give me an update if I ever needed to see that. Nutrition went really well. It was a mix of my main source of nutrition was the flow gel from Precision Fuel, which was great. Now I decanted that for the initial start for the 8 hours to get me to the 50-mile aid stations I had. This was decanted into it, which got me 260 mils worth. What's that? That was effectively 6 gels in there. Caffeine, the odd caffeine gels, which I mainly save for the nighttime use to get me through the night and keep me awake and give me that boost. Chews, these ones here, the Precision Fuel chews. Chai Charge flapjacks, Chai Charge chews, and that worked really well because I was alternating between it, but my main aim was to try and get minimum 60 grams, if not 70 grams of carbohydrates per hour running at that intensity into my body, and I'd literally force it down there even when I didn't want to have it, and then I'd wash it down with the water or the electrolyte if it needed. So I also, little things like I snipped all of these to give them nice, so they literally rip open really easy, which anything that could cause me trouble, I just made sure you did all that planning beforehand. So yeah, I decanted, I used that for the first 8 hours, then I used that one for the last 3 hours, and then I had like a 90 one of these for the midsection. So yeah, it was a mix of the flow gel, which was the main source of carbohydrate. I mean, my stomach did feel a bit strange at one stage, but I managed to keep it all down and keep moving, which was really important. Staying cool enough during the day, which really helped, because it was over about 20 degrees. I was wearing like a singlet, which kept me really cool. And what else? Had a little sweatband on, minimal socks. So I started out chilled at the start, and I managed to stay cool, which really helped, I think, with things like cramping. When you get overheated, that can make a big difference. So yeah, staying cool during the day, and then alternatively, also I did think what went well was staying warm during the night. So when I hit the aid station just before it got dark, I basically got my fluids topped up, but then I put on like the spare base layer, which is a Montane one, which was great. And just that tiny bit of added comfort when you feel like you're just getting a little bit cold makes all the difference. And whilst you're doing that, it's also a good opportunity to maybe get your jacket on, thinking long term, if suddenly it's just going to get darker, and also get your head torch out and ready, and I don't know, have a pee or whatever, just go to the toilet, whatever. But once it's just a big reset where you're going from day where it starts to get a bit cooler, going from day to night basically, and getting that base layer on. It's amazing what that little bit of extra comfort can do. Anti-chafe went really well. I was using this 2 Toms Sport Shield stuff, so I made sure I literally all over, under the arms, around your groin and your bum, whatever. It's just anywhere that you might have any sort of chafing. That helped. I wore loads of SPF because I was quite exposed during the day with the singlet. I also had a cap on, and slid in one of my pockets, I had one of those Sahara things where you look a little drape which you stick over the cap. Now that was actually really nice, even when it didn't just stop the sun hitting the sort of back of the neck and stuff. It actually seemed to catch some of the air and then channel it, focus it into your face a bit more. So that helped cool you as well. Foot care went really well. The prep, file toenails, tape toes. Although the tape held a little bit of water when it got wet, but that just any way of protecting that. But it's worth putting the extra effort in a few days before. Also, I was trying to minimise stopping at aid stations. And any time I went through an aid station, because I was basically started out and I was in first pretty much for the vast majority of the race, and then I made a big gap like through the evening into the night. But I was always asking for updates of how far behind second place is, just to give me an update. And sometimes being told that they're close can be quite useful, because you might need to step up the pace a bit just to keep that lead and give you a bit of confidence that you're well ahead. Yeah, basically I minimised also the stuff that I put in the drop bags, so that if I didn't have to wait at the end for them to be shipped to the finish line. So I only put nutrition, and then I gaffer taped a bottle of water onto that Ziploc nutrition bag, just in case I needed that. So yeah, that was quite nice not to know that I didn't have to wait around at the end, especially if you're making podium and you're really one of the faster ones. You don't have to wait for hours and hours. When you're chilled down, you just want to go home and go to sleep, or have a shower, whatever. Now, things that were expensive, things like shoe changes or socks or anything like that, I was lucky enough, so I left that with my crew, which I didn't end up by using. So yeah, I arrived early at the start line, which reduced the stress and start up at the start and gave me time to get set up. The aid station plan was really useful. As I showed you before, I'd recommend that to have one of those in the pockets, waterproof paper, sort of permanent marker in a little bag, and just have that to hand when you're running. Sometimes it's quite nice. So yeah, try and stay comfy as much as possible. Nip any things in the bud, that really helps. And because of a lot of hill training, especially in April, I got like 20 kilometers worth of hill training of elevation gain in April, which was great. Now that allowed me to confidently run a lot of the slight hills and then save the hiking for the steepest parts. So I was adamant that I wanted to keep that running going on and not hike any sort of hill. I wanted to run most of them. I had a lot of waterproof kit in the bag, so everything was zip locked, so if it was a heavy downpour, that things like the base layer which I was going to put on wasn't wet, and the gloves weren't wet and things like that, even though I didn't wear them. But so it's worth spending that time just to zip lock things and plan where it goes in the bag for the access, depending on when you might use it. Also the traction on these, considering they've got very little lugs, it was fantastic. Now up in the South Downs, you're looking at slippery chalk, especially through the night. And there was like loads of sheep and cow poo everywhere, but these were great on the slippery stuff as well. And I was very impressed, considering how minimum the lugs are. The grip, I had very little slippage problems with that. There was a bit of a lacing hotspot at the top, but that's settled down. But it's definitely worth getting a good lockdown. Luckily that settled down, because I did feel after about 50k that might be a problem, but might need readjusting, but it was fine. So yeah, when hiking, also hike fast. Don't just hike, hike like you're on a mission. Yeah, you want to get up those hills. You really put that extra, because that can make a big difference, because a lot of the race you are hiking, especially on the downs, there's some really long continuous hills to make up that 12,500 foot of elevation. When you're hiking, I was getting a lot of the nutrition down, and using my hands and my knees sometimes. I had the tag on the shoes, so I'd bring extra zip ties as well if you do need a shoe change, which they didn't really think about, so that could have been a problem. But get some proper food down at certain points. So I ended up by having sandwiches, which were cheese and pickle sandwiches, sourdough bread, with some tomato and salad, and just something real food. Now that really helped settle my stomach as well. So I had 2 or 3 of those like half sandwiches along the route when I saw my crew. Yeah, it was zip bags, labelling. I did a spreadsheet at the start, which I shared to the crew and other people. With training, like a weighted vest training was really, really good, because when you put the vest on, the hydration vest, it felt really light, because I was training with a 10 kilo weighted vest for the last parts of the training into the taper period, and it was low impact as well. So I also took salt tablets with me as well, with magnesium tablets, and popped those along the way, especially during the day when it was hotter, to try and stave off cramp. There was a little bit coming in, but I managed to stave that off. When I was walking, I would sometimes do more lungy walk to try and stretch the back of your legs and just keep smooth, especially because you might have to climb over stiles and things like that, where you close your legs a lot more. That's when the cramp can really set in. GPX file, make sure that was up to date. And when I named that, I named it with a date in the title, so I knew it gave me confidence that I had the latest one. And then deleted as much off the watch as possible, like old maps and stuff which I didn't need. So what went wrong? This is probably the most important part of my learnings for this race. Even though I won it, even though I actually managed to get the course record, which only by about 10 minutes or something, but basically the main thing that went wrong was navigation. Now, the GPX file on my watch. Now, I went wrong 7 times. One of them, I got lost about 15 minutes or so's time and dropped from first to second, and then had to catch up and then make the lead again. Now, that was one of the hardest things, was psychologically, because it was so demoralising, knowing you've gone wrong, knowing that basically you've lost probably an hour's worth of time with an additional 5 and a bit miles I added to the 101-mile race. Strava showed 106 point something. I ended up by doing it at 18:45 or something, but it would have been, and I still got 2 hours or so in front of the second person, but it would have been another hour on top of that, so it would have been like 17:40 something. But I don't know how they did the GPX sometimes, but sometimes it didn't lock to the actual paths that I was going for, and it was in the middle of like two parallel paths, which I made a mistake. I need to learn to navigate better and not just go full steam ahead, and I need to be wary of when you hit a turn point. The watch will tell you, but I need to be more confident of going through those turn points and the transition points to find and pick up the new trail again when you might hit a road, when you're crossing a road or whatever. But to go wrong 7 times, I had my phone in my pack, which was packed away too much. And then if it was going off with the race control and also my crew, they were literally trying to call me to say, you're going the wrong way. You need to get back on track. So I had to backtrack and just keep going and going and going and going, especially when I dropped from first to second. And it was a bit of a struggle trying to stave off or keep the person in second away when I kept on going wrong at the early stages. But through the night, I made up for it because I just soldiered on and increased my lead massively. And I need to do more of a recce of the course, ideally in future, or at least focus in on those transition points between one, when you're going into new fields where you might be going through a tiny little gap in a hedge which is slightly overgrown. During the day, you haven't got the reflective markings to sort of shine up. So I need to put my heads up and keep my eyes out more. During the night, it actually went a lot better navigation-wise because in the distance you can see the Tyvek sort of reflective markings. But during the day, early stages, before you hit the South Downs where it's more open, that was a nightmare, and it was demoralising to make that many mistakes. I did mention it to one of the people helpers and wanted a bit of sympathy, feeling sorry for myself. She's like, "Oh, that's really clumsy of you, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, you're right. It was really clumsy. I need to improve it." And yeah, anyway, so. Also, when you're under, there's lots of trees around you, sometimes your watch doesn't update as quick because you haven't got that clear connection to the GPS satellites. So it's harder during those sorts of places as well. Also going into villages where you've got lots of little pathways and stuff like that, it's easy to feel like you're actually close to the course, but it's somewhere over there, parallel, but you can't get to it. So you just got to be really careful and don't be afraid to slow down at those transition points. Touchscreen on the maps kept on being affected because I had that set to touchscreen during the activity. And you don't want to be changing stuff en route. So I've actually disabled the touchscreen, so I'll only use the buttons in future. And that was due to the water from my jacket. When I put my jacket on, touching the touchscreen. Also need to practice the maps usage on my maps more and play around with it. So if I can zoom in more and see those points. Also should have put the phone in more of an easy access point because I really needed that phone. I mean, initially I was trying to go for a really lightweight phone, but I'm actually glad that I went for my iPhone SE 2016, which is the smallest possible one, because I put it onto focus mode and only allowed the race team and my crew to make incoming calls and text messages, and just it disabled all the apps and notifications. So the battery life was configured so it would last the longest and through the night. So that was fine, but I would probably have it closer to hand instead of in my pack in future because I needed it when they started calling me when I was going the wrong way. Yeah, motivation was really tough at that stage. But it's all part of the learning process. Yeah, I mean, overall, it went really well because I put loads of training in, but it could have been a lot better. Now, the next race, which is Lakeland, which is in about 8 weeks' time, is going to be tougher. It's almost got double the elevation. It could be a really hot day, and there's a lot bigger field. There's probably going to be, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people or whatever. It's huge. So I need to nail the navigation as much as possible because there'll probably be less markings. And also I need to train a lot, keep the training going, get the hills going. Now I'm recovering well after my swollen sort of base of legs are sort of slowly going down, onwards and upwards, and just got to keep learning. I'll do a full review of these for a 100-mile race review, and also I can run through all the little bits of kit as well if needed, but for the 100-miler, because it makes a big difference. So yeah, thanks for listening. I know it's gone on for ages, but it was a really enjoyable race. And also thanks to Ben Notley. He's an absolute superstar. He came in third, made podium, and he's got his own YouTube channel, so you should check that out. Congrats, Ben. Great running. And thanks for watching, and tune in for the next one. Thanks. Bye.